Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for August 25, 2022, the $20 billion recovered edition. And we begin with that story from Bloomberg, as Angola says it has seized $20 billion in its war on graft. More than 3,000 financial crimes cases have been opened, and with more than $20 billion worth of illicitly acquired assets seized domestically and abroad, is one of the largest reclamations of stolen money there that we have seen. The 3,000 cases filed are up from 12 cases under the previous administration. Sort of sounds like Trump. There was a lot of corruption in Angola in the past, as the head of the Anti-Corruption Commission, Nunes Jr., said, but little or nothing was done. Well, now we are doing something about it. So good to see Angola join the world's fight on bribery and corruption. This next story comes to us more from the legal world, but it is the convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell, former associate of Jeffrey Epstein, who is now in prison, has stiffed her lawyers. The motto of this story: if you're going to take someone to trial, you better get your money beforehand up front, because if you lose, little chance of getting it thereafter. The law firm was paid said they were to be paid $1 million retainer, but paid just $143,000. So shame on the lawyers for believing they're obviously not telling the truth client. Next up, from the Voice of Orange County, or the Voice of OC.com, a first-time contributor to the Daily Compliance News, a sordid story involving the Major League Baseball, Los Angeles Angels, and Artie Moreno. He has announced he might sell his team months after an FBI corruption investigation in Anaheim upended his near deal to buy the club's home field for $150 million in cash. Moreno said, although this is a difficult decision, was entirely our choice and deserved a great deal of thoughtful consideration. My family and I have ultimately come to the conclusion that now is in the time. This is after grand jury's testimony allegedly heard. City officials betrayed the public trust in a secretive deal making to sell the stadium to Moreno on the cheap. So, pretty ugly stuff going on in Anaheim, California, and it may impact Major League Baseball. And finally, the whistleblower complaint against Twitter is certainly a doozy, with various illegal allegations of conduct in there, according to Slate Magazine. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.